Good morning, everyone. My name is Nadiah Abdullah, and I'm your moderator today. So in my day job, I'm actually the CHRO, Chief Human Resources Officer for SV Setia. But today I hold the head of lead for the talent pipeline for 30% Club. I just want to say thank you for investing your time today, as it's a precious Saturday. I know that we have many corporate women, corporate moms and ladies today, and it's precious Saturday when you have to take time away from the family. But I think this is a well worth Saturday that you spent, because it's a topic that is currently being discussed a lot. And what I understand is that we have almost about 300 plus joining us at the moment. I see it's going up. We have got about 100 people in already. And we also have some of our male colleagues in here as well. Exactly on this point, where we talked about the 30% representations of women in board, Harvard Business Review as early as 2006 actually did a survey, and it was said that about 15%, only 15% of the Fortune 500 board members were women, and this was about 2006. Here we are in 2021. I don't think the numbers has increased as much, but I think we've made some progress. So today we're going to talk a little bit more on how do you prepare yourself in terms of getting a placement or your first board placement. We are happy to have three very experienced, I would say, talent and leader in the session today. The session today will be organized in three different parts. The first one, we will later listen to Dato Moris, who is actually chair of 30% Club Malaysia. At the same time, she is also CEO of Maybank Investment Banking Group. Dato Amy comes with various depth and breadth of experience, both in her job as an investment banker, but also the fact that she has been involved in many major deals and sits in other board as well. She does come with great vision, being the newly appointed chairperson, and we'll listen to her afterwards. Secondly, after that, we'll hear and listen to TP Tian Pao, who's fondly known as TP, and I think many of you would have known him, because I understand that many have gone through some of the sessions that he has had before. TP is someone who comes with 32 years of experiences at spans across searches and placement of board of directors and C-suites. TP has also been very active in some of the programs that Lead Women has had on mentoring of board members, new board members, specifically for women board members. In his past life, he's also been involved in business, Therefore, currently he sits in some of the boards, particularly chairs the Nomination and Remuneration Board Committee for Taylor's Education Group, and also sits in as special advisor for the Women on Board Network Kenya, Africa, and also chair-elect of Industry Advisory Board School of Business, Monash University. So he does come with very varied experiences, and it'll be interesting to listen to what he can share with some of those things that we can prepare ourselves to be new and effective board member. Right after that, we would have Dr. Jayanti Ramasamy, we call her Dr. J in short. She is currently an independent non-executive director for Rohas. I think Dr. J is a rare, I would say rare talent, because she's someone who actually started her first board placement at the age of 34, and it'll be interesting to hear how she actually drives her own agenda, I would say, in terms of getting into the board position. There is this myth that to get into board position, you have to be of a certain age. Let's hear from her. Dr. J also at the same time is very, I would say, one of those rare talent in the technical world. Just a little bit of introduction. She is subsea manager with Hibiscus Petroleum and manages the subsea projects in the North Sea sector. In her career, she has been involved in a lot of major projects, drilling engineer at Talisman, Malaysia, as early as 2006, an engineer by profession. She is, I would say, quite a learner, has had a long list of qualifications. She was appointed to the board of Rohas as an independent board of director in August 2017. And recently in 2021, she has completed the Bachelor of Jurisprudence from the University of Malaya. That adds on to her earlier accolades of having a Master of Technology for Petroleum from Curtin University of Technology and a PhD in Subsea Asset Integrity from University of Technology Malaysia. So you do have some powerful, I would say, women who's had real good experience. Now, before we start, I would like to just call on to a poll to just see how many, now I see it's 108, just to see where we are. If you can just kindly, take on where you are, so that it gives us a bit of a gauge in terms of where your role is, so that TP can, maneuver those questions and points accordingly that will add value to your experience today. So let's do that, and then we'll see the poll. So I see the numbers are coming out in terms of the participations. Elisa, are we seeing the polls coming up?
Yep,
okay.
We have about 79 people now.
79, so we've got about 79. Okay, that 109 is inclusive to us in the panel. Yeah, so it looks like we have 48% who are exploring opportunity to become a director, 27% taking action and still getting ready, getting there, 10% board skills and network ready. So probably some of these people are already in board positions. 15% sitting on boards already. Yeah, so we've got quite a good mix of some new board members, some who have already in board positions, and I think a majority are still kind of trying to find out more and explore what are the opportunities out there. So let's not waste time. Let's move on to Dato Amy, so that we can hear her thoughts being the chairperson for 30% Club. Over to you, Dato. Dato, you're on mute, Dato. Okay.
Okay, Saturday morning. All right. Thank you, Nadiah, and a very good morning to everyone. I am really so happy to see all of you here in our DEI conversation number 3. This morning, I have 3 messages. Get ready, get to the starting line, and get on board. Today is the start of helping you get ready for board roles. You will be hearing from the 30% Club lead members, TPPun and Nadiah, who is also our moderator this morning. TP runs his own advisory and is a former partner at Converstion, while Nadiah, as you've heard, is the Chief HR Officer of SP Setia Berhad. Both have fantastically vast experience working closely with boards, particularly on candidate selection. Now, in Malaysia today, women hold about 18% of board seats of public listed companies, and we need over 700 seats to be filled by women in order to reach that 30% milestone. The opportunity is here, and we need more women raising their hands. But before we go into the heart of today's conversation, one reminder that I would really like to share. DEI conversations are really conversations of the battle for talent. And in today's technology disrupted world, all companies need the best talent on the bench and on the board. The bigger the pool of talent, the higher probability boards will be better and bolder. As they say, fortune favors the prepared mind. So you will also hear from a graduate of the 30% Club Board Mentoring Scheme, which is a partnership that the 30% Club has with PwC. And that mentee of the scheme is Dr. J. Ramasamy. She secured her first board role at the age of 34 because she had the ambition. With ambition, you get to shape decisions at the highest level, which means you have real impact, real influence. You will be in the position to guide companies to become world-class, be it a PLC, SME, or startup, all of which Malaysia so needs today. Or you can also work towards the changes you want to see for a better world. As a study by the 30% Club and Oliver Wyman has shown, women are more likely change makers, particularly in the arena of climate action in corporate leadership. My second point is to get to the starting line. The biggest hurdle is scoring the first board role because most boards are more comfortable with experienced individuals. Those who overcome this have something unique to offer or have built prior relationships. And this brings me to networking purposefully. What you know is what we call the hygiene factor. Who you know is key, and you have to be intentional with your time and energy. When you attend an event, why are you there? Who must you meet? And what might you say to them to leave an impact? And my third point is to get on board. When in the boardroom, responding to group dynamics and discussions does require fortitude and foresight. Perhaps some of us, whether men or women, dislike engaging in conflict and raising sensitive issues. Yes, they are all fairly challenging. You will need to accept that it's all right not to know all the answers. Trust your instincts. If it does not feel right, it's probably not right. But be prepared to be wrong, ask questions, get curious, and not be judgmental. In this journey of becoming a board of directors, you are not alone. Here at the 30% Club, that and together with our strategic partners, Lead Women and ICDM, or the Institute of Corporate Directors of Malaysia, we are here to help guide you. Another less obvious but valuable ally that you may consider is also your current employer. One of Dr. J's former employers had sponsored her for a director's training in Australia. Now, not all of us may be that privileged, but why not mention to your supervisor about your career ambition to train and sit on boards? There might be the unexpected opportunities within the company. It's really up to us to plant the seed and, as they say, to water the garden. On this note, I really do encourage, I really would like if we could all ask a lot of questions today. I hope you will take away something valuable. Most importantly, have fun and enjoy engaging in this safe place of the 30% Club conversation. After all, it is meant to be a conversation for us to learn. I would like to thank again TP, Nadiah, and Dr. J for their very precious time, and also thank our advisors and other 30% Club members, volunteers, and partners who are here as well as my Maybank colleagues. To end, I would like to quote what Diana Ross sang in the opening song just now. It really just reflects my age. I've got to show the world all that I want to be and all my abilities. There's so much more to me. So with that, I hand back over to Nadiah. Thanks, Nadiah.
Thank you, Dato Amy. I think that's such a powerful message and truly endearing, I would say, to hear it from, someone who's actually walked the path as well. We'll pass it over to TP because I think there's been a lot of discussion about the myths of why women can be a better board member or not, or some of those I would say misperception that some women members could have some struggles in terms of trying to spread their time and so on. So there's been lots of debate on that. So let's hand it over to TP to have this about 30 minutes, and then we'll have some question and answer. We want to hear more from you. Over to you, TP.
Thank you, Nadiah. Thank you, Dato Amy. I was just telling the panelists that, as usual, despite doing so many presentations of such nature, I still have lots of butterflies in my tummy. So please help me out, smile a bit more. Although I can't see you, but I can imagine you smiling at me. I have about 30 minutes to share, and definitely it is a conversation. So I'm going to ask Dr. Amy, Dr. J, and Nadiah to chip in where they can actually. So allow me to actually run through the presentation with you all. Okay, so let's start. And someone asked how old I was actually, just to, I'm a bit shy here, but I'm going to celebrate my 57th birthday next month. So I do have 33 years of experience, just to manage your expectation. So for the next half an hour, this is what I plan to share. It's my stories, it's my journey as a headhunter for board levels and C-suite, a chair of nomination committee, my discussion with lots of board members, lots of chairs, lots of aspiring board members. So I'm going to share those stories with you. So I'm going to kind of put into 3-4 areas. I'm going to start by talking about challenges, because I think that is important to know what the challenges are, because before you dive into it, you better know exactly what may happen to you. And I'm going to move to the selection criteria. what are board looking for nowadays? So I think those are things that's important for you to know so that you can kind of like gear up yourself in those areas that you think there's a gap and to see how you can address those things. And moving on, I'm going to talk about how do you position yourself, your branding, and how do you take charge of your own board journey. And along the way, I'm going to talk about how to nurture a connection, like what Dato Amy said, networking is so important. So let's talk about how do you nurture your connection and how do you leverage on a power influence map. I'll share that with you. I know some of you may have attended, may have seen some of these slides before in my workshop. I hope you'll bear with me. Make it as a refreshment, so to say. Okay, let's move on. Let's warm up a bit. Okay. In the chat box, because I was just saying that we all need to be aware of our personal challenges, before we embark on a journey. Similarly, before you embark on a board journey, let's find out exactly what may be troubling you, what may be of concern to you, what may be challenging for you. So in the chat box, please, can you just share just one challenge or concern that you think someone, maybe like yourself or maybe your friend, has or may experience being selected for boards? So let's get in the chat box. Let's warm up, let's share. And I would like to see some of the chat coming in. Okay, let me see. A challenge or a concern that you may have, or you're someone that you know may have, being selected for boards or being identified for boards, not within the inner circle by law. Yeah, there's a lot of coming from a humble background. That's nice, Nicole. Maybe, yeah, sometimes age is a barrier, 63. Yeah, let's talk about age in a while. Confidence, insecurities, doesn't have a degree from Ivy League. Don't worry about that. Selection, insufficient networking, time to attend, courage, lots of this. Great stuff. This is great stuff. And it's good that this session is recorded. So basically, I think we can access some of these challenges over time. But let me share my next slide. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for sharing. And these are all real stuff. I like this part where Dato Amy said imposter syndrome. Very, very, very true. Okay. Never held a C-suite selection black box. Wow, lots of challenges. Okay, let me move to the next slide here. And let's talk about some of the things that I've actually gathered. What happened is that for the last 4 years, actually, I've been conducting a lot of workshop on board profiling, and I've got feedback in writing as well as verbally from a lot of board members and aspiring board members. So what I've done is that I've collated some of this feedback for your reference. And some of this feedback actually came from board chairs that I've met as well as a headhunter. Okay, let's talk about this. So I want to showcase that you are, as you can see from the chat box, you are not alone and you will not be alone. But getting on the board does need perseverance and resilience. Okay, so never give up. So I'm going to just spend a bit more time on each of the area in the next few slides. But at this point, just let me show a bit of an overview and I'll share you a story here. So most of this feedback were collated from more than 150 board members and aspiring board members who attended my workshop over the last 4 years. And this workshop is actually conducted by Lead Women, ICDM, Kenya Board Network, and so on and so forth. So let me share a story here because there's so many stories to share, but maybe let me share couple of stories here. I've got many contacts. These are aspiring board members who come to me and say, TP, look at my resume. I've got what it takes, I really got what it takes to join that board. I tick all the boxes. Why am I not selected? Why am I not selected? Now, we have to bear in mind the real world is that sometimes some board members or some board chairs or NRC chairs or screening board members already have a kind of a profile they have in mind for a new board member. They will have the kind of, they're kind of looking for a profile and they sort of know what they're looking for. And if your CV comes along and you come along and it doesn't fit them, sometimes they may just they'll continue to interview you, but you may not be seen as so-called the targeted candidate. So what I'm saying here is that, but they'll still go through a process so that they can see a wider range of candidates. So what I'm saying here is that a lot of us, including me and you, will face a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointment. Going for interviews, submitting your resumes, putting your hand up, but you may be rejected. So what I'm saying is that it does need a lot of perseverance, a lot of resilience. So never give up. And the other thing that I need to also be upfront is that your mental readiness is very important as well. Before, in fact, whereas you're embarking on a board journey, you need to be mentally ready. And what I mean by that is that actually you need to ask yourself, is this the right time to start looking for board? What if I join the wrong board? You know, do I feel ready to be a board member? So there's a lot of mental obstacles that you really need to actually address and overcome along the way. Okay, let me just quickly, I will not actually go item by item, but I just want to showcase some of the challenges that whether current board members or aspiring board members have faced or are experiencing as well. So let's start with the first one, your board value proposition, your branding. Now, we all know it boils down to demand and supply. Board who wants you to join the board will actually basically engage you in their own narrative. They'll say, this is great stuff, this is a great industry, this is a great organization. We can see you adding value. So on the other hand, you as a aspiring board member or current board member, you also need to engage the boards on your value proposition. And I always call it, what is your BVP? What is your board value proposition? So you need to be able to articulate it very confidently in writing. As you verbalize during your networking session, you need to know where you stand and where you can be and where you can deliver values as well. But what advice? Don't go overboard, as in overselling. Be truthful to yourself. Use the right words. Basically talk about your accountability. Be balanced about it. Don't oversell yourself, because sometimes a lot of people can see through that as well. I'll talk about that later on, all right? And the second thing is that the company you work with actually sometimes can make a lot of difference. Your branding, your personal branding is also tied to your employer branding. That is the company that you work with or have worked before. It is so common that as I present candidate to my clients when I was with headhunting, they say that TP, where is she working, or where is he working? I've never heard of this company. So sometimes employer branding is neat. So joining the right company, being employed is actually quite important as well. So I think I just want you to actually take note of that. Let's move on to the second one. Learn, unlearn, relearn, wherever you are, because curiosity and agility are very key here. And I'll share another story with you. There are a lot of candidates that came to me and said, TP, I don't know much about the industry. I'm not sure whether I will be good enough to understand, what's happening in the board meetings, what will they ask me in the board interviews and so on and so forth. So sometimes it is very true that sometimes we are expected to basically ramp up our learning curve. As you join the board, or if you plan to join a board in a different industry. But let me tell you this, I've actually placed people from different industry into board of companies from the industry totally different from them. And I asked the board, in fact, I asked the board chairs and the NRC chairs, what are you looking for? They said that's fine. That person may not come from the industry, but the fact that the person is a consumer of our company or a consumer in this industry, it is enough as a stepping stone. So lo and behold, you do not have to be only worried if you totally have not immersed yourself in a particular industry. But all said, generally, a lot of board till today still do prefer someone who has exposure or experience in their specific industry. Okay, but do not be dampened if you feel that there's a chance to actually dabble into a different industry. So there are chances and opportunity for you to actually go and do that. Okay. Now, we all know that board members are expected to pick up things. We need to have the affinity to pick up things as fast as possible. Curiosity and agility is definitely very key. So please, you need to read widely, be knowledgeable, be curious, and please remain agile to new stuff, new insights, new trends, new hot skills, whatever, because that's an expectation, in fact. And the other thing I would like to share is that as you go through this whole thing about understanding business, leverage on your current executive and C-suite experiences. Do not ignore if the right opportunity comes along where your company allows you to expand your horizon. And I call it leadership maturity. That means exposure to C-suite opportunities, exposure to relocating, exposure to different products and services, exposure to getting involved in org structure, M&A, anything of that sort, P&L. Go and seize the opportunity, because a person with a diversity of experiences, we call it leadership maturity, and who has gone through different challenges and experienced the challenges, will be better positioned to perform better, whether in a board interview or in a board setting. So optimize your experience in that respect as well. Okay. And actually, the other thing that I always remind our aspiring board member, do not forget about talking about your geographical span of control, especially if you are involved in regional or global projects or your scope. You need to present your value proposition in a few areas: functional, geography, leadership maturity, span of control, revenue sizes, P&Ls, employees branding. So you need to look at your value proposition in that respect as well. Okay. So I'm trying to manage time here. So let me quickly move on to the next one, the next third cluster of challenges here. And I'm not going to go through this, all right, because there's just so much to talk about this. But let me just talk about maybe one couple of stories here. I've got many current board members or new board members that come to me and say, TP, replace me here. I'm so happy about that. But I'm getting headache. I'm getting disillusioned. I'm getting frustrated by being on board here. And these I would say are challenges, maybe common for some people, and maybe it is, for some people it's just part and parcel of being a board member. And for example, comments I hear about, I've got a difficult chair. This board is very compliant. No, I'm the only female board member here. High expectation. I think it's the wrong board. Sometimes we will all go through these challenges. Getting your first board, I would say, is the most challenging one. And once you get into your first board opportunities will likely trickle in for you. So getting the first board is normally the most difficult. So my advice is yet learn from role models, seek out board mentors and board sponsors and board coach. Start small, maybe in an NGO board, maybe a private board or family board, and start small, understand the norms of how to do things, and then maybe think to have a bigger aspiration. And always bear in mind that you always take two to tango. Be aware of your own behavior, your own action, your own style, as well as your own body language, when you actually sit in board as well. So, it's not just one way, but just be aware of that as well. Now, my next slide is the last, it's about the last cluster, which is basically about self-regulation, self-awareness. And I think maybe some of you can relate to some of these items here, but I will stop here because although there's so many stories to share, but I want to actually maybe get some feedback from Dato Amy herself or Dr. J or Nadiah about some of the challenges, maybe one challenges or concern they've experienced, and how did they go about addressing it. So maybe I will just invite anyone. Is it Dato Amy, Dr. J, would you like to share challenges that you have gone through?
Hi. I can come in, and good morning for 30% Club to invite me for this wonderful topic. I think first challenge will be how to fit into board position, because when you go into board position, you will have a lot of very experienced, very seasoned chairperson, and you are very intimidated by them, So I think it's important for you to sometime to pause and try to get yourself familiarized with the board situations and go into the questions, and you prop more question into it.
Great input, actually. Very common, but it's very real, isn't it?
Yes, and sometimes it's more like, especially when you are coming from different background or industry. Let's take mine as an experience. So I'm not a accounting background. I'm not from a financial background. especially when you go to board, I think majority of time you will spend quite a bit analyzing the financial accounting, even tax. I mean, you normally will have a tax expert in the company to look into that. So again, sometimes you just need to pause, come back and say, what I don't know here and how to address that. Or sometimes you go back to experts or peers to really help you in that sort of a challenges there.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. J. Dr. Amy, if you want to chip in, just chip in, all right? So I'll just, if not, I'll move on just to manage time here. So we talk about challenges, and we need to be cognizant of the challenges, because it's not just rosy getting into board, because there are things that we all learn as well. So I'm going to move to the next section here about recognizing selection criteria. What does it take to be identified and maybe selected to join boards, all right? So if you look at the heading, I've used the word here, may, in uppercase. So what I'm sharing you is what I've gone through as I call it selection criteria that I've actually brainstormed with clients, with board chairs and RH chairmen through my own experiences. Now, this is not a science, it is more of a science and art. So it's not a magic formula that I'm going to share with you, but these are some of the criteria that I would say that please bear in mind as you're being identified for board as well. Okay, let me just quickly go through it. Board experiences, availability, and motivation. Very key. A lot of board would actually want people with board experiences. But I think the recent trend is that a lot of boards are also very open now to getting people without any board experiences or any so-called, when I say board experience here, I'm referring to independent, non-executive board experiences, or maybe board committee experiences. So having experiences relating to in a board or board committee is very key, and you could already showcase that in your resume. The second, availability, very, very important. Please, if any of y'all is keen to sit in board, please, and you're still working full-time, do get a green light from your current employer, because it will be very frustrating if you get invited for a board interview and during interview, you actually say that you're not quite sure because you're not sure whether your employer will be open to do that. This is very, very frustrating for the board who interviews you. So please get green light. And I think like what Dr. Amy said, start to plant the seed sooner than later. You know, and I know I got my first when I was working full time. So I think it is possible for some companies, for some companies that are quite particular of that. The second one, skills, knowledge, experience. This is so important. And this is where your board resume and the way you go for interview and the way you socialize and articulate a board proposition is so important. And I cannot de-emphasize that a lot of board search or board nomination is based on what skills, knowledge, expertise, and experience you can bring on board the value proposition. And what I'm talking here is your professional experiences, your technical functional skills, your leadership maturity, the span of control, whether you have been in crisis management, ESG, whether you're doing digital, lots of things in this area to talk about. Okay. And the next few areas, reputation and personal branding. How credible you are, how visible you are you known in the market? I've gone through cases where I presented names of candidates to my client, and they say that, PP, I've not heard of these individuals. Where are they? Are they in the market in the first place? So reputation, personal branding, visibility is also quite key for some organization when it comes to sitting in board as well. Okay, relationship, network, connection. You know, the working relationship you have with regulators, with the investor committees, investors communities, with certain of maybe with top management in the company, with some board members. It is key with the industry players. These are all very key. Your connection is key. And I'm not just talking about the high and buy thing. It's actually some level of strong positive connection. You know, so whenever a reference check is done on you, it will come up positively, more positive. All right. And the last one, your leadership character and competency. And this is the soft side of things. And sometimes you can't talk about this a lot in your resume. This is when you engage with board in your interviews or in the social setting or networking, this is where you actually need to sparkle. You need to show your X factor. So leadership, character, and competency. These are some of the 5 group of criteria that a lot of board look at. And I will tell you, not all board will look at all the 5 criteria. Generally, maybe they'll emphasize more, maybe the first 2 and maybe some board will look at maybe the third reputation, personal branding is more important than the experience. So I'm not saying that this is a magic formula. It is just partly some of the criteria. But let me show you another framework which a lot of board I know have actually kind of like loosely used this, and I call it the LA. The LAs, I'll tell you what is the L here. Aptitude, attitude, and altitude. Aptitude talks about competency, skill set, experience, your aptitude for networking, your aptitude for learning and everything, your aptitude in leadership maturity. Attitude talks about the soft skills, your styles, the way you articulate, in meetings, so on and so forth. Altitude is about potential, maybe, your strategic overview. If I put her on board, can I see her growing into maybe the board chair or maybe the committee chair, or can we see her joining other board of subsidiary? What's the altitude? What's the potential? Can she grow? Can she be agile? Can she pick up things? Because we are all not static and stagnant. So the need for altitude continuously, increasing your threshold is actually required. Now the last one, which is very, very tricky, which I think is important because this is the word that I hear being used a lot, is the likability factor. Oh gosh, sometimes at the end of a meeting, the board interviews, we look around and the board say that, no, we can see her contributing, we can see her as a board member. We like her. Oh, we like her value. The word like sometimes, can be misinterpreted. It is not like the friendly kind of like here. It is like, there's a chemistry that we can see eye to eye. We can see her as a peer. We can see him contributing. We can see him standing up with a point of view. That whole aura, the whole presence is just okay. The likability factor. And a lot of us may have blind spot. We think that people like us, but sometimes people don't tell to your face they don't like you for some reason. I think this is where you really need to actually maybe do some soul searching. And you can't be liked by everybody anyway. So this likability factor, it's a bit of fluid here, but I want you to know that it is a factor that kind of like, that is being considered or being talked about when you look at board selection. I'll stop here and see whether Dr. J or maybe Dato Amy would like to chip in. Maybe you want to share maybe one criteria that you thought that you had to do well, or maybe, before you're being selected to join board. Would like to share, Dr. J or Dr. Amy?
Okay, let me share my own experience here. So the board usually is very unique. Each board is unique, and we are pretty much like a jigsaw puzzle. So where they will look into competency or the gap they have in the board. So currently, if you look at a recent trend of the risk for business, like an IT issue, like a digital marketing issue, so they don't expect someone really older generation to come in and fill up the gap. So they're looking into somebody who really understand this issue to come in and fill up the board position. And recently, I think somewhere last year or a year ago, a company approached me because they like me as being young and again, go out and then do stuff and all the stuff. But they also have a very, very specific requirement. They want somebody from digital marketing. They really understand push product, especially this company is a fast growing F&B business. They said, we really need this special skill for us to grow the company. So then I end up saying, I'm not the right candidate. Sometimes we need to ask question, are we the right candidate to come in to help the company to grow or put the strategy, business strategy together? So not necessarily all the calls that we get, or we won't be the suitable candidate. So you need to really test and let go some of the opportunities may come your way.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I'll weigh in here. In my view, right, boards really, particularly in the world that's become very sustainability conscious, right? For the Maybank Group, for example, we really strive to be what we call ESG first. The imperatives of the environment, the social imperatives, and above all, governance. So within the sphere of governance, this is where the board really plays the key role. And to me, the board is really there to ask the very strategic questions, right? And the strategic questions is to make sure that there is clear alignment in terms of the intent and then also the execution from the management side. But that common purpose must be understood in terms of what is everybody's path and purpose. So sometimes, yes, I agree with Dr. J that it is very intimidating. So for example, I now sit on the board of a public university. And whilst right education is something that all of us have had the experience of, nevertheless, right, there has been so much development, so much progress in the world of education that I do feel intimidated. Also like what Dr. J mentioned. But ultimately, the role of the board is really to ask the very right, appropriate, strategic questions, which should be applicable to any type of business. But the details of the business itself is something that we can all pick up along the way. So one thing I know as a woman, I don't wing it. I always need to be fully equipped with all the answers. I must have my own thesis before I do anything. But it is something that is a journey of learning, and that's where management, being able to help in that learning journey is also something useful. But don't expect to be perfect as soon as you land in a board.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Can I just chime in, TP? I agree with Dato Amy. I mean, for me, being on the management side, although I also sit in a board of MEF, for example, but from a management point of view as well, I think it's really helpful when you have a board member who actually helps to ask the right questions and sometimes socialize it before the meeting. I would say, so you don't waste time in the board meeting itself, because the socialization has been done before. And on that point, I just like to point to your point on relationships, networks, and connection. I think that's a very, very important point for me from a perspective of a management staff with a board member, or for me sitting in some other boards. There should be a good connection between boards and management, because I think the success and effectiveness of a board member really depends on that relationship too. On the other side, for the networking, having been the lead for the talent pipeline for 30% Club, we have had many women who come in and said they struggle with the time to invest in networking. I have to say that, I mean, I'm a mother of two as well. Throughout my journey, I worked for 30 years, and I make the point to really find some time for strategic networking and connection, because I think that's so important, not just to create that relationship, but also to get ourselves exposed in ensuring that we are relevant and we know what's out there, because otherwise we could be sucked into our own work, and by the time we get to an age where you want to be or you decide that you're going to be a board member, it might be too late, as what TP says, that no one knows you, or you don't know who's who in the market, if that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadiah. Thank you, Dato. Very relevant. Actually, all of us have our own journey. And when I was first invited to join Taylor's education group, I know nuts about education, of course, to be honest. I mean, I know a bit, but not too much. And being a HR person, I was a full-fledged HR consultant, HR director. So when I was asked to chair the nomination committee, I was also learning as well. So there are challenges, but when you're agile and you are ready to, when you're confident that you can pick up things and not oversell yourself, you can do a very, very good job of it. So anyway, let me quickly
TP, there was one question, maybe since you touched about HR, there was one question in the chat. Yeah. Someone was asking, will the board consider someone who only has HR experience? I mean, of course, I added in, I said, well, I think for HR person, you must broaden your knowledge, but maybe you can touch a little bit more on that, having been in HR and then now moved into board positions and that sort of space.
Yeah. I would say that the answer is that yes. In fact, there was also a question about some of the hot skills that's being looked at, and I think Dato Amy mentioned ESG, definitely ESG related kind of skill set, governance, digital, financials, is always hot skills, and risk management, HR is definitely one of the skill set that is actually I just come to realize that a lot of HR folks are sitting in boards. We know a lot of them in the market, and I'm actually one of them. So there is no stopping as long as you know you can deliver value at the board level, oversight, control. You know some, I know you're curious about the financials, the business, ask the right questions, look at the big picture, read a lot. I think there is no stopping you, seriously. Yeah.
TP, as a moderator, I'm just reminding we've got about
Yes,
maybe
2 more minutes.
5-6 minutes. Yeah, hard stop.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Let me quickly move to the last few slides. All right, taking charge now. Now that we kind of aware of some of the challenges that some of us are experiencing, and what sort of criteria that board may be looking at when they are looking at us to sit in board. Let's look at, okay, let's find out where we are at the moment and what do we do next. So I don't want to do a poll of this, but maybe as I go through this, ask yourself, which quadrant do you think I'm sitting in at the moment? So I kind of simplify this into 4 quadrants. You need to actually self-assess yourself and really know where you are and start to take charge of the board journey. So I kind of have the x-axis and the y's. On basically the vertical axis, you see the board experiences, like your C-suite experiences, the achievement you have achieved, and whether at board or even startup, being an entrepreneurial, your credibility, all the very, very so-called the tangible skill set, the achievement, everything. That's on the vertical axis. On the horizontal axis is basically the extent and the depth and breadth of your network, the visibility, your prominence, personal branding, goes down to connection. Let's see where we are at the moment. Now, if you are in the BR quadrant, which is board ready, that means you're either sitting in board or you're very, very ready in board and everybody's knocking your door to join the board. Once they know that, oh, she's retiring or she's going to, she's going to live for full time, we want her to join board, you're board ready in that sense. For those individuals who are board ready, thumbs up for you. But please, before you join a board, do your due diligence, because joining the right board that makes you engaged and maybe less frustrated, really can add a lot of life to your age as well. So make sure you actually know what sort of board you're joining and find out more about the commitment, the dynamics of the management team, the board, and everything. Now, this is the BR lucky ones. Okay, fortunate ones, all right. Let's start with the other one, the other extreme, the GRs, getting ready. And this is what we will recommend you. I think some of you all have actually nominated that you're just getting ready to it. Please do follow us, the 30% Club, LinkedIn, join us as advocates as well. And you have not joined as members of ICDM, the Institute of Corporate Directors Malaysia, consider joining them, Lead Women as well. And there's several of them, but these are two fairly more prominent ones, ICDM and Lead Women. Because I think you have access to their board programs, you will actually get to be invited to join the board register as well. And you have access to some of the board vacancy that's being published as well. So consider joining ICDM Lead Women. And of course, please continue to get insights from board members whom talk to board advisory firms. If you Google, there are a lot of consulting firms and advisory firms that do board knowledge sharing. Read them up, read the white paper, find out what's happening, find out what is the hot skills, get to know all these things, get to join professional bodies, industry bodies, really get into them. And of course, you must acknowledge that you need time and effort to do a lot of research. You've got to look at, okay, I'm going to set some time to do that, So for ladies and guys gentlemen who are getting ready, please consider some of these action items. Now, on the other hand, if you feel that in terms of skills, leadership maturity, experiences in board committees, or maybe you have those, but you're low on maybe connection, networking, and branding, these are some of the steps that I will recommend. Get a board resume and board profile in place. You need to showcase your value proposition. I will recommend just 2 quick items. Be aware and be knowledgeable and be confident of your board value proposition. Talking about span of control, your skill set, the geographical span of control, the roles you're in, the value you can bring to the board, the hot skills. In addition to that, the second item, be aware of your positioning matrix. You have to position those items, rank them in sequence that will wow the reader. The impact, when the reader, they'll be wow because the impact and prominence stands out. So you've got to sequence your item within your resume and profile. And once you get that right, when you actually articulate it verbally, whether it's an interview or your networking, you will know what to say and when to say kind of certain things. Okay. So the other things that networking is get to know power influence map, which I'll show to you in a couple of minutes time. What is power influence map? Be engaged, visible in board. and be really top of mind of board sponsors and referee. And the last one, if you're strong on networking, your relationship is, people know who you are, but you feel that you have not got quite a certain level of board competency or skill set or experience or leadership experiences. These are things that you can work on. Join the likes of ICDM, Lead Women, and the rest. Join their development program, get board mentors and coaches, start small, non-PLCs, expand your leadership executive experiences and everything. So these are some of the steps that you can look at. Okay, just about 2 more slides. If you don't mind, let me quickly go through it. Just quickly, I want to spend a bit more time about connection and networking because like what Nadiah and Dato said, it is, and also Dr. J, it is so important. When you have your board resume or your board profile or a profile of certain sort, please make sure it's updated in the DR, Directors Register of ICDM or Lead Women of the Life. Make sure you update your LinkedIn. And when you give speaking engagement, make sure your profile is updated. Make sure that people know that you're keen in board roles as well. And your WhatsApp, socialize your board profile, which is normally 1 pager, in your WhatsApp to the right people. And definitely, I will remind you, tell board members or board sponsors that you're keen in board roles because people cannot read your mind. Make sure you're on top of your network and referral, and make sure you continue to have proactive connection with board sponsors and mentors. And there's a lot of things you can get yourself more visible and connected. Be sure that you know at least a couple of search firms that actually do board searches, connect with them, meet them, get involved with professional organizations, in your industry, sit in their office, do some work and organize things, be known, get interviewed, write articles, in TV, radios, or digital media, whatever. Mentoring program, get involved in them if you can. Social media, there's a lot of things, and you got to start. If I go to linking of some of your, I would not be surprised to tell you that some of your linking is, need to be ramped up. Okay, you need to actually showcase those things. And my last slide. Okay, my last slide. Power influence map. Okay, you may ask, TP, where do I start hanging around? What sort of people do I need to establish strategic connection with, or I call it tactical connection with? And these are people who sit in some of these locations, so to say. Because if you are actually connected, I'm not saying that don't just overly rely on your connection to get your board. Of course, you need the board competency, your expertise and everything, but I'm saying that it will be extra pluses if you're connected in the right place at the right time. So just a list of things here. Boards of prominent PLC, MNC, private boards, get to know who they are, the chairs, and if you know them, hang around with them, get to know them, what's happening and everything. Tell them that you're keen, maybe WhatsApp them your 1-pager profile. ICDMs, board-related development institution, the likes of maybe Lead Women and those organized by Bank Negara, SCs and BURSAs, industry association, professional body regulators, state corporation, board level search partner, search firms and everything. And there's a lot of things there. So try to think now, do I know people in this organization? If not, you need to ramp up. You need to get ready. Like what Dr. Amy said, be ready, get ready, and just get on board. Okay. For that, I just want to thank for your attention. I'll just stop here and pass it to Nadiah for the Q&A. Thanks, Nadiah. Sorry for taking more time than
it's okay. Thank you, TP. I think we could always go on and on because it's long. I was monitoring the chat, a long list of questions, but it's okay. We'll cover that in Dr. J's session. So I think we move on to the third section, and let's get into conversation with Dr. J. So Dr. J, I think you've shared a little bit and also chimed in some of your thoughts just now. But I think one of the key questions, and everyone's very, very keen to know, and Dato' Amy mentioned that in her opening just now, you're one of the rare talent who started very early at the age of 34. And somehow I don't know how you managed to do that, because I remember when NIEW was having the training, they say you must be at 45 years old or 40 years old, I remember, to get in there. So perhaps you can share with us, and I have already heard that story. I want probably the rest to hear that story and how you could, kind of drove in that personal agenda. I think there's a lot that we can learn from you. When did you start? How did you start? And basically, how did you break that barrier and get into the gate without crashing the gate in a way?
6 years ago, maybe That's about when I'm 30 plus. I don't want to reveal my age. So now, so 6 years ago, I delivered a mega project, and then I delivered my first daughter, first child, and I got a bit of lull with my career. And again, I was thinking what should do with my life. Of course, I have an 8 to 5 job. I got a fantastic family. I have a child for my own. So what's next step? So that's where I start searching for information. I started look for information. The program that you mentioned, I think it was under the ministry. In fact, I filled up the form twice because why? Whenever you put your IC number inside, you cannot complete the form because you need to C-suite at least a minimum and age of 45 and above. Otherwise, the system doesn't allow you to complete the form to even send for screening. So I'm quite frustrated. So for audience that listening in, I am not C-suite, I'm not age of 45 and above, but I was looking into boards, not into PLCs, more on NGOs, private, or even some voluntary sort of work. So I filled up a lot of applications and around age of 30. Of course, you won't get a lot of feedback. You just went silent, except you got one call. That's a one moment that is changed everything. So even the person who actually conducted the screening, she actually went on, she asked me all the questions and I answered, and she was, okay, I'm going to put you through this nomination. And then she paused and she asked, how old are you? I said, I'm 30, back then 33. I said, you are so young. I didn't know that. Oh, I have to check the age requirement. She paused and she said, okay, I'm going to put your age together and I want to send your name. Again, we will take it from there. Again, she was so worried about me going in front of other senior, very experienced directors. She actually met me in person to really kind of screen my body language, to prep me how to answer the questions. But in fact, we met, we end up chit-chatting, for a whole 1 hour. So you are just naturally coming in as a leader. Are you confident? Do you know your subject matter? Can you withstand the pressure that you're going to go through? Especially my management team and in my board, they are much more older than me. So that,
how did you overcome that, Dr. J? I'm sure, and it's typically, I guess, in Asian culture, there's a bit of hierarchy of respect that is somewhat related to age. I'm sure in your sort of meetings and so on, you mentioned, you have to be good in what you do, but the first few meetings, what did you do to counter that? Because the first impression, they would have had some kind of a body language that's responding to you very differently.
Nadiah, I might take an opposite approach. Sometimes because I'm very young and because I don't know a lot of things, I actually can ask stupid questions. If I put it blindly, I will always say, can you please explain in layman terms, Especially I had another board for a short period of time, and I had to learn a lot of financial terms, which I'm not familiar. I have to stop the meeting. I said, can you please explain what we are undergoing right now? But it's not about the subject matter. End of the day, it is a logical or not, it is rational or not, so that you can test. It's not like you cannot get your head around with the matter after some time, but it's just your courage. I think you need to have a courage. Shouldn't be holding that people might have a high reputation on me, I shouldn't be asking the question. I think that's something we have to take away. You're allowed to ask question.
So I suppose, people always talk about form and substance. Of course, you need to have substance. And what you're saying is that what's more important is that mindset, the confidence that you have as an individual and how you project yourself, that manifests in the confidence that you're projecting. Maybe I'll just move to the second questions. You've shared quite a lot about how you push yourself into the entry level. On reflection, and many years have passed and you've gone into many other boards as well and many other meetings. On reflection, what would be your personal observations that you think you could have done better? Because, someone coming in young, the experience that you had probably would not have been as in-depth as someone who's probably longer. And I don't know, would that have been something that came in between your discussions or your debates in boards? So what do you think you could have done better? What advice would you advise some of this young aspiring board member? Because now I'm sure at the back everyone's getting excited because hearing someone who's gone in at 34 or 40, now all the 40s and below are saying, okay, yes, this is an opportunity because the market has shifted. The demand for digital transformation, the demand for ESGs, all these are new ideas and new thinking. What have been your key learnings?
I think being young and you've gone into the board position, sometimes you need to have a peers. I think you need to have the circle, not like a circle of friends. This is somebody that you can talk in private and confidential, because you cannot really provide the context, what the queries that you might have in your mind, but you want to understand how to go about with a certain issue. So because I'm so young, at that time, I do not have much circle around me. But after few meetings, I'm getting into the network. I have a couple of peers. They are really seasoned senior board members sitting in the other industries. So I have any particular issue, I can actually call them, hey, how to go about, especially like reporting requirements nowadays, even issuing our quarterly results. What sort of information? So, there are some peculiar information you need to declare. So sometimes you will be sit the debate, do we need to inform this? Should we keep it this as a company information? And also certain legal matters. Okay, when you're faced with a certain legal matters, it's best to have some peers because you're not board directors and you won't have that network. They may be, you need to start talking to the board directors already up there that to guide you sometimes. So the first 2-3 years have been a roller coaster journey for me.
So in other words, you are also saying that there needs to be a bit of humility as well to learn from the more seasoned board directors. Let me just swing the question to another angle. Clearly, you are someone who has rare talent in a very specific area, engineering, and it's not just engineering, it's petroleum engineering, which is very male dominated. So question is, when you sit in boards, and you've shared with us some of the boards that you've been in, some people are naturally being called for boards that are specifically from the industry that they've been in. I think TP mentioned that, be very confident from your management experience and so on. But in your view, based on your journey, do you think that you really have to be coming from the industry to be in that board? So for example, if you are sitting in education, you really need to be in education. And if you don't, how do you then close that gap? Financial requirements, for example, you mentioned a little bit just now, as an engineer, you may not be completely as well educated or well experienced as a finance person. And we've seen in the past, most boards have got financial people in that. What's your experience, and how can one close that gap or fill up that gap to raise that confidence being in a board, especially when you have board members who are much more experienced?
So in terms of competency, I think it's very hard to close all the competencies that under the sky. Okay, I recently came across 2 individuals. They are non-oil and gas background. They end up in oil and gas boards. They both contacted me when they actually had their interview. They said, Jay, I'm very nervous. What I need to know to be in oil and gas board? I said, you don't need to know anything, because not knowing the context and the information, you can be outsiders that coming in and looking in a different perspective. Okay, so you not necessarily need to be inside the industry. Another extreme is banking sector, because I think TP mentioned about consumer, because banking nowadays not looking at a former banker to sit in a board position. They want anyone like as a consumer. Like you want to protect your consumer, you want to provide service to the consumer. So you rather select somebody outside the banking sector to come in and serve the board, so that they can understand the issues that common person like you and me face as a consumer. Like for example, my parents, they are aging. So they really like to have a passbook. So how they go into online banking and do all sort of numbers and all that, you cannot enforce that sort of online banking. So it's very hard to fill up all the competencies under the sky. So you just need to go with what you know, what you are good at it, how you can actually kind of adapt to the environment. And you need to learn like ESG, sustainable development. We are far from that. So these are the new items coming in, and boards need to report accordingly, have to really adhere to. But again, are we really know everything? No. Again, when you go to board, you will be asked to go for trainings. You will be asked to get into some sort of like a engagement section for you to know more stuff. And also I like to tell people, when you're a board member, actually as a board, you are allowed to access or go and get an opinion. Let's say it's a very critical matter and you are in a very critical situation. No one in the board has the knowledge. We have a budget and funding, and for you to engage third-party specific service provider to come in and help you with. So don't understand. Please understand. You have the avenue to do that.
Okay, so that there was a question. Actually, it was a question kind of related to what you just shared here during TP session, but it was a short time there. So question was, how do we ensure that? Hang on, let me just get the question. How should one think about the risk and liability of a non-executive board member? In terms of the risk that they see. You just mentioned just now, board members can be exposed, and you can actually get accident. And with all this governance that's coming in, I think I have had new board members saying, oh, it's quite scary because if you're not careful, you might end up in jail. So how do you ensure that, especially so when you're in a board where it's not your areas of expertise? What would be your advice?
I think that is the most frequently asked question to me. When I went into board level, I am really almost everyone that see me, are you really understand and your liability undertaking? See, I think the statement is correct, where the directors has the most fiduciary duty towards the board. So it is, although you get paid minimal for your role there, yes, you can end up in jail for doing certain things. So I think for you to really ask the question, take a step back. And actually, when you get a call to the board, you need to understand the board, at least go back to their financials, go back to their reports, look at their board of directors, how they are reporting governance. Are you comfortable to go into this sort of family? Because normally the tenure of directors about 9 years. So you're going to stuck with them for 9 years. So are you comfortable? So the approach that I took on board is, after my board position, because I was asked this question frequently, I end up embarking a legal study. I went back to university. I got my legal degree because of that particular reason. So I invested 4 years of my time to going back to school, so that I understand the legal liability being a director.
So in a way, we have to invest in our personal development as well, because you're not then walking in with one eyes closed. There is another question here. Perhaps I know TP is in the call as well. In Dato Amy says, how can 30% Club, ICDM, and other bodies best influence companies to create a pipeline of female leaders and remove positive bias for women appointed to boards? So I'm opening it up to also TP or Dato Amy, if you would like to answer, or Dr. J, if you think you.
I'll pass you to Dato Amy. I think she best to answer these questions,
In terms of inclusion, I think the biggest umbrella is really inclusion, to make sure that nation states, organizations, communities, NGOs, whatever the nature of the organization, is inclusive and enables equitable access for all different types of groups to have representation in decisions that really matter. So within the world of the 30% Club, which is a global business campaign run purely by what we call volunteers and advocates, right, men and women, the point is that we believe that there must be all kinds of things, right, all different critical success factors that need to be brought to the table to really make a world that is very inclusive. So we will need even quotas, prescriptions. We need very much awareness, advocacy. Advocacy is the role that the 30% Club plays, for example, in terms of building awareness. And, you know, there's training, which is also something that we do, the mentoring, the sponsorships. So there are many, many things that really needs to be brought to the table. And as I, you know, always like to share with audiences, in the world in 2022, where women are 50% of the population, I think we don't need to really argue anymore why we need a gender balanced representation across businesses, across governments, and so on and so forth. So in that sense, the 30% Club, we go down to the ground and really help, as I've mentioned, to really advocate, to bring awareness. And I know when I've spoken to a lot of boards, people tell me, hey, it's no longer the why, we all are bought in. So it's the question of the hows. How do we then actually really invest in the time to have these type of conversations to activate, right? To really activate women and men who are interested to actually make some difference. And as also Dr. J has mentioned, being on boards is not, you know, in terms of compensations and everything, remuneration, they are very competitively adjusted independently to make sure that there's a benchmark across the marketplace. And there are many contributions that can be done for sure. And I think Dr. J has definitely included quite a lot of those possibilities that organizations that like 30% Club can bring to bear to help women and men who are very interested. Just on the last mention, I actually have Ricky, who is the chair of our Maybank Securities Philippines, and he actually shared a very interesting point to me that what he has introduced is what we call, I guess, applications that are scrubbed of markers, identity markers. So where you no longer required to include your gender, for example, it's all about the qualifications you bring to the table, and the selection is based on that. So very interesting. So apparently he has had very positive outcomes, and women have kind of naturally also, you know, come up and risen to the key panel of selection.
Yeah.
TP, you have something to say? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what Dato Amy says is on the dot. Actually, I would not really add to what Dato Amy is talking about the question, but I just want to go back to one of Dr. J's comment about her going back to do legal course. To be honest, I'm a full-time HR person, but fortunately, I did an accounting degree. So knowing the P&L and reading financial statement is very key when you join board, you know, seriously. So I have to go back and read, because as you go through all the board committee meetings and figures will be talking, you need to understand the facts and figures and the basic 101 balance sheet and everything. So for women who are, or men who has not gone through the 101, I would encourage you, read up about it, get to know the financials and understand the financial statements. That's
Thank
key.
you, TP. Yeah, so I'm just mindful of time because I know we booked everybody's time up to 12:15. What I'll do is I'll just wrap up, do the wrap up, and if you have any other questions and anyone, I think the panel is happy to stay on for a bit up to maybe 12:30, then we can still cover up, but just mindful of those who need to go. So I think as a wrap up, we heard a lot about the theories and practicalities also in terms of applications, experiences. There are four points I would like to probably just conclude. So I think number one, TP and also Dr. J spoke a lot about investing, personal investment, either it's time, personal development, basically doing courses to just make sure that you are relevant. Because no matter how strong you are in your past management experience, we're living in a world where governance and everything else is constantly changing. Second point is to invest in networking. I think that's came out very, very clearly. And I think the fact that you are here this morning and you are already investing your time in networking and knowing who's who to speak to. Secondly, find a mentor. I hear it quite loudly in Dr. J also spoke about how you need to then hang on to some of those conversations that you can actually get from some of the more seasoned board members, because nothing can compare and beat experiences that people go through, actual scenarios and so on. The third point, I think very strongly, is also personal branding. I mean, we hear it a lot. Sometimes we underestimate the power of personal branding because if we are not known, no matter how good we are, we probably will not even get a place. We don't even come close to the gate. So I think that is important. So do spend time to look and ask yourself where you are, what kind of profile would you like to project yourself to be in. And TP mentioned about LinkedIn. I'm quite a strong champion of LinkedIn. I think there's huge amount of opportunities in LinkedIn. I think for us to even look across, even at management level, where we use LinkedIn to understand another profile. I guess these days, even when you're sitting in a meeting, the guy could be sitting, or the lady should be sitting in front of you. You know, we're all checking on LinkedIn, what's the profile. So I think do spend time and invest on what you put in your LinkedIn account. I think lastly is really using your past experiences. I think TP emphasized that just now. We all come from management experience, C-suites, and some of you are already halfway, probably having early retirement. I think when you are confident in your past experiences, your breadth and depth of your management experiences, that is the foundation of your confidence. Dr. J spoke about how confidence is the main thing that really positions you at where you want to be, because it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter who you are, but once you have that personal confidence, I think it matters, and it is actually clearly manifested in the way you carry yourself. That will bring you the ticket to your first board position. So
Nadiah,
yeah.
can I just chip in? I think I'm almost thinking about the ladies that listening in. I think if you have an inspiration to be a board director, I think go and talk to your management. Don't feel shy about it. Almost people might laugh at it. It's okay. I think you need to tell them, I want to do this. Oh, they might put you down, but I think you need to tell them, I am here, I'm going to take up the challenge. But you need to persevere that first stage within your organization before you go to the board level. If you're a full-time employee, talk to your direct bosses and tell your interests. Tell this is how you're going to shape your career. I think that's something I done early in my days. I spoke to my 2 immediate bosses, and when I got the call for the board nomination, in fact, they both helped me to get me vetted through the legal department, because I was working for a multinational company, and they wrote to the legal department to say, okay, this is a profile, this is what's going on. Please help her to get there. I think the support is very key. I think I'm very, very, maybe lucky, you can call it. They had both male bosses that helped me to get me there. Okay.
That's a good point, Dr. J. And I do believe that having a sponsor, whether it's internal or external, is important. Perhaps on this point as well, Dato Amy being the chairperson, I think there's probably some things that we need to work on with some of the local companies as well. How do we encourage CEOs or chairmen or boards to allow C-suites to be actually active in participation, because otherwise they'll never be able to have that first-time experience. So we can always quote Dr. J's experience. So a lot of work to be done, but I do hope.
Yes, something, Nadiah? This is,
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is so important, because when I was a headhunter looking for C-suite or anyone who is not being a board, I have to go to the LinkedIn and the annual report. Make sure, I know this is a sensitive topic, make sure you have a decent looking, pleasant looking picture in your LinkedIn, because when headhunters present to our clients, sometimes we will actually have to extract things from public domain, because we cannot call you up to say, oh, by the way, we are looking at you as a potential candidate. Sometimes your name may be socialized without you knowing yet until you're being shortlisted. So make sure your LinkedIn, your photos, whatever, all things, your profile of your presentation, make sure it's intact, so that it's easily accessible by people who are doing research on you. So please bear that in mind. Thank you so
So
much.
TP, that 40% side angle kind of photo, huh?
45 degrees and not the whole body, just preferably half the body. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, I while we're wrapping up, I'm actually also multitasking and looking at some of the comments. Thank you very much. Very good comments. One of the interesting, most useful webinars. I mean, it's really good to hear that. And so we will continue to have more sessions here. Dato Amy will attest that. Is there anything else that you want to say, Dato Amy, before we kind of close the session?
So I really want to say thank you to everybody, the panelists, all the teams that have been very supportive in bringing this conversation. We try to keep it sharp, punchy, on point. The DEI conversation series is something that the 30% Club really passionately believes to really galvanize very different segments of the communities to really bring about greater diversity and inclusion. And it involves inclusive representation in all shapes and forms: age, gender, ethnicity, backgrounds, educational backgrounds, and so on and so forth. So thank you once again. And I hope that the most important thing is, one of the responses that we had, yes, it is about investing in oneself. Yes. And making sure that we understand what are the imperatives and our own ambitions, and then doing whatever that is required, taking that journey to achieve our own personal ambitions to make great impact to society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato Amy. I think you put it beautifully. I think that whole alignment of your personal aspirations and how you want to see yourself moving forward. Because at the end of the day, I think we want to live a life that it's enriching and something that we enjoy doing as well. Thank you so much. I'd like to say thank you to the panelists, Chairperson Dato Amy, Dr. J, TP, and also not to forget our backup teams and admin teams who have been working really hard at the back end: Noel, Alyssa, Shahira, and also Diana. And also thank you to all of you for spending this precious Saturday morning. I know we can go on and on. When we started, we said 1.5 hours is so short, we want to say, but I said, yeah, okay, let's just respect. I think 1.5 hours, keep it punchy. Mothers have to go back and prepare lunch and so on. And I know, not forgetting, I have got some male colleagues as well. They've been sending comments. Thank you, our male colleagues who've been, good, I would say, advocates, and that's what we want. I think we can make this happen. A full, diverse board or will bring the nation to the next level. Thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.